Well, good evening. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. Welcome to the Midweek Report. I'm joined by R. Wayne Steiger. We're just waiting for Wayne to make his way in. We wanted to go ahead and get things kicked off on time as much as is possible. Wayne and I had a little trouble. We didn't have trouble. We just didn't hook up until late. Wayne's here now. Let me go ahead and get him set up here. And we will be off and running. Let's see, panelists.
Hey, Jeff.
And let me get you down to where we can get you in here, Wayne. All right. You should be pretty well good to go now, my friend.
Okay,
let's see. Video, and we should be good. There we are.
Hey, how you doing there, Jeff?
I'm well. How are you? You got a Colorado Rockies shirt on.
Oh, yeah. You know, you got to carry the team. Plus, they got great colors. You know,
they do have great colors, and they're in the playoffs this year for the first time in 6-8 years, right?
Long time. So it's I think they got to do a do or die game against Arizona. So
oh, that's right. It's the what do they call that? The wild card game.
Wild card. That's what it is. So let's just hope they do well.
And I believe it's tonight.
It is, my friend. In fact, probably first pitch is starting about now.
Well, we should get right into this business then. So Wayne, tell me what's on your mind.
Well, I think it's been a most interesting couple of days for myself, to say the least.
Well, that's for sure.
I think it's been for America the same way. You know, it's odd, Jeff. Prior to this whole event that happened there, I've been studying a lot on the alchemy approach to philosophy. Right. And here's one for you. So at the moment of death.
Right.
All right. And hear me out on this. So let's say it's a second. Let's say it's a millisecond.
Okay.
All right. Hear me on this. Suppose the entity that men call the soul was in the process of separation from the body. The process would occupy time until the point of liberation was reached. Would not dissolution, so far as the separation of matter and spirit is concerned, at its critical point, be instantaneous? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. Very interesting. Now listen to this. If the critical point is not instantaneous, there would be no beginning, there would be no end. Therein rests an eternity greater than man can otherwise conceive of. For as there is neither beginning nor end, time and space are annihilated.
I would concur with that.
So it is between neither a part of the neither side nor the upper side. It is outside the here and the hereafter. That could be an eternity for an individual. I never saw it that when our perspective is sometimes saying a second seems to last forever.
Right.
You know, and then if you're having a great time, it goes by like this year.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that if you don't know how to navigate the afterlife state, it's not going to be instantaneous, and then it could take you a while.
You know, and that brings up a real good point, because I think that's where people get lost and trapped. They don't have any guidance to what happens on the other side, that process.
Well, no one ever teaches us, Wayne.
Bingo. That's exactly it. And I know you're doing some teaching on the Western Book of the Dead, right?
We are, and it's transformational, I think. And it's just, it beggars description to me. It boggles my mind that one of the most important things, even spiritual people understand that this life is very short, that this life is not all there is. And yet we spend just about zero time in preparation for navigating the afterlife state. And many of the other cultures that were quote unquote not as advanced as we are spent much time learning how to navigate the afterlife state.
Yes, yes. And I'm telling you, I'm really thinking about, I think there is an opportunity where you could open up centers into every community, right? That you would actually have the opportunity to teach people in their youth how to begin to approach death.
That'd be a great idea.
And I think, Jeff, that those people's lives would be so much more enriched.
Oh, absolutely. You would be able to appreciate it. You wouldn't be able to. I mean, how many of us live and spend most of our lives in fear of death?
I would say all of us.
And how can you live if you're really afraid of dying?
And
didn't Tim McGraw write a song?
I think he did.
Live. What was the name of that song called? It was I hope you get the chance to live like you were dying. So you didn't care. You knew it was coming. You weren't consumed by it. You accepted it as a thing. And of course, the idea of the song is that you make the very most of everything. It says, I can't remember the words. I went Rocky Mountain climbing. I went skydiving, rode a Bronco horse, just did everything and anything that he wanted to do because he was living like he was dying.
And I think that that's a freedom once you begin. Listen,
oh, it is.
Yeah, when I got out from under the God spell, and that was finally broken over my life, I really had to examine that core because it was predicated and founded in fear. I mean, you were really, to me, it was like rolling the dice whether you were going to make it into heaven or to hell.
Yeah. And he said he loved a little deeper. He smiled a little sweeter. He took the time to realize and recognize the things that were important in life. And we're so busy building a life that very few of us take a chance to live.
Yep.
And you would think that, Tim McGraw, you would think that events such as happening this week would serve to strengthen our resolve to live like we were dying. Because the fact of the matter is, folks, we are.
Yeah. I mean,
didn't Jim Morrison say no one gets out of here alive?
That's a fact. And I have contended that what we call the birth portal is actually the death portal, because the thing about it is this transient temporal plane, whatever the purpose is that we're here, is one whacked out place. And to think that the exit is called death, but actually it's the liberation.
Absolutely. Let me read this to you. It says, I went skydiving. I went Rocky Mountain climbing. I went 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu. I loved deeper. I spoke sweeter, and I gave forgiveness that I'd been denying. I was finally the husband that most of the time I wasn't. I became a friend would like to have. All of a sudden, going fishing, wasn't such an imposition. Where is it? Oh, wasn't such an imposition. And I went 3 times that year. I lost my dad. I finally read the good book, and we know what he's saying there. Took a good, long, hard look at what I'd do if I could do it all again. I hope you get the chance to live like you're dying. Watched an eagle as it was flying.
Yeah.
Powerful stuff.
And it is, because it's us. It's about all of us. The last song that Glenn Campbell wrote when the Alzheimer's was setting in fast, he knew it, his wife knew it. And the song that he wrote was that I Won't Miss Loving You.
Yeah.
And, it was from a perspective that he knew, although he wasn't going to be facing the physical death, he knew that it was death no matter how you looked at it.
Yep, the Rhinestone Cowboy.
Yeah. So, and I thought about Tom Petty,
Yeah, we lost him, didn't we?
Yeah, 66 years old. And
Florida boy.
Yeah, Jacksonville, Florida. I mean, yeah, it's just, and I was reflecting on this today. I was outside doing some trimming of some tree limbs, and I was reflecting on the fact that my generation, I'm 62, we were spoiled. We were spoiled because I had a chance to watch Woodstock last night, the director's cut, and how that moment of collective consciousness, Jeff, how you saw what never could happen today. It could never happen again today because
Talking about Woodstock?
yes, yes. The 3 days of peace and love that transcended a generation. And you think of, there we go.
He won't back down.
He won't back down. And I believe that's how he marched into the next plane too. But we grew up spoiled because there was such a rich flow of music, talent, expression. And I contend that we were in a place and space that somehow or another excited that part of the collective consciousness where we had magicians. Look, we got Elton John. And you think about the guys that we grew up with, myself, the Doors. You could just go on the list.
Well, we had Elvis, we had the Beatles, we had,
yeah.
You can just go on down the list. Michael Jackson.
And then
Aerosmith. I mean, just go on. We could have Rocker Chick list groups all night long.
But we've now passed through that. We're not seeing the talent, the creative essence replacing these pioneers in music.
That's for sure. I know everybody says that. It's not like it used to be. It's funny that the reality is it's not like it used to be, and it never really was, Wayne.
Well, but I would contend with you that there is a finite point where music is concerned, modern music, and that was with the record player. I mean, I remember listening to Robert Johnson, the first black blues player, guitar, and revolutionary that, they actually recorded a black man playing.
Yeah.
But if you listen to his albums, you can hear, I read something in the Philosopher's Stone document I'm reading, and that this is it. No original thought can be originated by a man. For every thought that is original is planted by the seed of someone before him.
Johnny Cash.
Yeah. So you think about how these guys influenced, and, we've lost that. I mean, today. Yeah. But to get back to the point,
you talk about, whatever your feelings are on hip hop, but it's just not like it was.
Well, when I was going through junior high and high school, I played the clarinet, I played the flute, and I played the bassoon. And the bassoon was by far the most challenging instrument to master. But my point is that we were taught music.
Right.
We were taught how to write music, how to read music. And, I still remember the competition, Jeff, of trying to get to first row, first chair, And
one of the things probably that encapsulated it most for me, I saw something somewhere where, Beyonce, if you like it, you should have put a ring on it, had like 4 or 5 writers and, over like a month. And Freddie Mercury wrote Bohemian Rhapsody overnight by himself.
Exactly.
That just encapsulates it so perfectly.
I remember
Freddie Mercury, right?
Yeah. And the same thing when I think about when I was watching Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend, and Pete Townsend kept saying, they said, well, when are you going to write your next great opera, and he says, when the people can first begin to appreciate the first one.
Yeah.
And of course, then he went on to write Quadrophenia. But yeah, I don't see that today. Maybe it's there. I just don't see it.
Yeah, it's definitely, you know, the 70s and 80s were almost a golden age of music.
It truly was. And boy, you know, you could almost look at this.
Prince, now that's a good point. Prince was, well,
Yeah,
he
but
was,
Prince,
you know,
he
more
was in the
80s,
80s.
70s, 80s, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Prince to me was the antithesis of Michael Jackson, you know, because Prince really was a musical genius.
Right.
He was. His mind was in a place when he did Purple Rain, that album. I mean, there were so many different styles of music that he could actually incorporate into his sound, which made it unique.
Much like Freddie Mercury.
Exactly, same thing. I mean, you know, I saw Queen. I remember seeing him back in '76, but it was like, you know, at the time, I got to be candid with you. I was like, okay, yeah, it's pretty good group.
Freddie Mercury would have been, I mean, if he'd have been born in the times of Beethoven and them, he would have been one of those guys, no doubt about it.
No doubt about it.
I don't think if Justin Bieber would have been born back then, it would have been the same thing.
No, no.
But I have to admit, I really do like Billy Idol.
Well, nothing wrong. He's got some good music. Hey, listen, I liked In Excess. I thought they had a great sign. Suicide Blonde. I mean,
I don't even know who that is, to tell you the truth.
In Excess?
Yeah.
Okay, well.
I remember there's a lot of years there where that was all from the devil, Wayne. So it's kind of a big gap for me.
Well, Rick Ashley was another good guy. Now, he was in the 90s, had a great voice, and Spanda Ballet. I mean, all of these were really classy acts that we saw there. You know, I was thinking as well, George Michaels.
George Michael.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
Speaking of this, I wanted to show you something that's funny. Somebody sent this to me. It's from 2000, and it's the morning after my worst drunk ever. And here I am, and you got to love the shirt. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. Now, that's
2000 in Laughlin, Nevada.
That just speaks style all over it, brother.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're looking rather chipper there.
Yeah, that was the night after the worst drunk of my life. It was not, that was the morning after the night before, as they say.
Yeah, I'll go with Three Dog Night. You know, Mama told me not to come.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Three Dog Night was, I mean, that was great. Chicago was great.
Yeah.
You know, the Beatles were great. McCartney was great. I mean,
but is it the original Paul?
I think so. I wrote a book about that. I think he got MK Ultra and probably temporarily tortured, but I think it's the same guy.
Well, they definitely was jacking with the gray matter on the inside.
Oh, they definitely were. There's no doubt about it.
That's all I can say.
No, that was right at that was in the midst of the preaching days right there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was in the midst of the preaching days. That was 2000s. No, it was right. It was at the end of the preaching days. That's true.
Well, I was telling you, I saw this thing on Jerry Lee Lewis. And all I got to say is that boy was crazy.
Creedence, yeah. And Jimmy Swaggart taught him how to play piano.
Yeah, that whole thing between him and who was the other guy?
Mickey Gilley.
Yes, thank you. There you go.
Cousins, all three of them grew up together, running around.
Yeah, and then marrying his cousin, and you know,
yeah,
it's like what?
Jerry Lee Lewis marrying his cousin was the best thing that ever happened to Elvis.
I think so. Yeah.
Because Jerry Lee was bigger than Elvis at that point.
He was. And apparently the story goes that he was drunk one night and I don't know, Elvis was feeling kind of down and blue and called up Jerry Lee Lewis. And of course, Jerry Lee Lewis had been drinking all night heavily. And
of course,
long story short, by the time Jerry Lee got it in his head that he needed to go and tell Elvis what the deal really was, man, he actually got arrested, actually drove his Bentley right through the gates, and yeah,
Actually, Graceland.
Yeah, and had a gun.
Oh, I did hear tell about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Got arrested for it, and the story goes that Elvis thought that he was out to go over and shoot him because
Which
Jerry
was
Lee
not out of the realm of possibility, knowing Jerry Lee.
Precisely. Well, in fact, he actually shot a guy. Yeah, and anyway, so there you go. I mean,
I met Jerry Lee.
Did you now?
Yeah.
Well, what was your impression?
Loved him. I thought he was amazing. I mentioned that I had, worked with his cousin, and it was like we were, old buddies. It was great.
Well, I when I worked in Nashville, the TNN was a client of ours, and they did the Grand Ole Opry every Saturday night.
Yeah.
So while the Ryman Theater was being renovated, they were out there, as you know, out there in Opryland. And so there I am backstage, and they brought the whole setting to Opryland, where they did the Grand Ole Opry for a number of years. And hearing the story, what Jerry Lee did when they said, don't play any of that boogie woogie or some kind of stuff like that. And, he was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And so the last 5 minutes, I think that he basically did, and set the piano on fire.
that's when he squirted lighter fluid in it and threw a match in it and lit the whole thing up.
Exactly. And said a few choice words as he was walking off the stage.
That was classic Jerry Lee. But I mean, you talk about the talent of Jerry Lee. There was a time where he was undercard for Chuck Berry at this big concert in Memphis, and Jerry Lee went out there and just destroyed it. And Chuck Berry refused to go on stage after him because wasn't he
afraid of his life or something? I mean, I think Chuck Berry said that he was a crazy,
How do you follow that?
Well, I keep on thinking about your time, because you were with the other side of the cousin, because I think at one time, wasn't Jerry Lee Lewis heading for gospel music? I mean, isn't that where his roots were?
Well, Jerry Lee went for a short time to Bible college in Waxahachie, Texas, but a very short time. Southwest Bible College. And
really?
Yes, he did.
Dr. J. Vernon McGee.
And Jerry Lee went there for a number of weeks, and he was Jerry Lee, and that was the end of that. So then he got signed to the record deal, and he tried to get Jimmy to sign a record deal for a gospel artist, but Jimmy wouldn't do it, and the rest is history.
Boy, oh boy. And isn't it interesting how we connect with certain souls in that journey of life? That is so cool.
It really is. It really is. So Wayne, you spent a lot of time in Las Vegas, right?
Yeah.
I lived there for about 5 years, and it's terrible what happened there. And, I tried to talk today. I tried to talk about the actual, the spiritual reality of what's going on behind the political reality and the social reality. And it's an idea of trying to, get blood for blood magic and to provoke prayers for more power. And we just have to, look beyond and see what's really going on in the spiritual realm, I think.
Well, I've been thinking about that this guy, all right. So I know people may not like to hear this, but this is how I see it. This guy mastered at a level that he created a reality out of the ether.
We're talking about Paddock?
Yeah. I mean, it clearly shows that he spent time meditating in this. And when you begin to create a set of circumstances, what people don't understand is that that's creating out of nothing, because this guy is about to create something in the material world. Now, I'm convinced that type of negative energy, it's dark and it's seductive, and there are entities that feed off of that. And when I began, now I've stayed at the Mandalay Bay, stayed at the hotel. Yep. And I've had a suite. I was right on the 34th floor.
Yeah, I've been right there with that same suite on a different floor.
Yep.
That's your classic. When you see that classic Vegas view down the strip, looking towards the stratosphere, and you got the Paris over here. That's from those suites right there from like 31 to the top of Mandalay Bay. That's what those are. That's what those views are. That view is.
In fact, the last time I was there, they were doing American Ninja Warrior. They were filming that. And so, but my point was, listen, if this would happen, that he was actually carried up 10 suitcases full of bullets and ammunition, clips, etc., the odds of going unnoticed in such a thing, because, housekeeping, you can put them off for the first day, but they are required by Nevada law to go in on the second day.
The only thing I can think that he had to have brought them up in golf bags.
And it's still weird.
But with faux golf heads on the top, club heads on the top. That's the only way you could have done it.
But my point is...
You're right. They do go in.
Yeah, they do.
By law. And whether when you don't realize this, but when you sign into the hotel, you are signing a consent for them to go into your room when you're not there without notification. And they do go look in the state of Nevada, and they will go in and do checks just to make sure everything is copacetic. Yep. When you're there or not. If you got the do not disturb door on the door, doesn't matter. They're going in. I lived there for 6 years, worked in the hospitality business, and that's what they do.
So this guy had to have help, I think, in the unseen realm. And they can do that. They can influence humans' eyes.
Somebody's talking about the surveillance cameras, and we've all seen on TV and stuff how, sometimes these people and entities can, fizz out the surveillance cameras and stuff. Maybe he was of that power you're talking about. Somebody talks about tipping the bellboys. Of course, you can tip them to, bring up extra stuff and keep it on the hush hush, but they're not going to bring up gun cases, but they might bring up golf bags.
They could bring up golf bags. And, I think my fear would be, is like anyone else's, is that if something was to slip, I mean, the guy is bringing up AR-10s, I saw 2 308s, and holy crap. I mean,
and he had something that sat on a tripod and was held by 2 hands. What was that?
Yeah. Well, that's the problem that we're all asking ourselves, because that is either that looked like us to a full auto. I think
that was a dun, 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 dun. That was the one that you could hear real low.
That sounded like a 50 cal.
It really did.
Yeah. And, when I heard it initially, I looked over at my wife and I said, that's belt fed. I said, that's something is feeding that. You couldn't do a clip fast enough.
Exactly. And
so,
why weren't there bullets bouncing off the pavement? That's one thing that bothered me.
Well, and the other thing is that when you start shooting at that close of range on those windows, you can get a ricochet from those bullets very quickly. I mean, folks, not the 308s, they got some, and if it's a 50 cal, it's, I don't know.
That's a good point, Wayne. That had to be a belt-fed weapon. That one that you were hearing the real low. That is belt-fed.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, holy crap, what's going on? But
what was that one that Rambo was holding with one hand that was belt-fed? They were shooting. What weapon?
That was a 50 cal. Yeah,
50 cal. Yeah, it had to be at least that.
Yeah, so
that's what it was. The one they were carrying over their shoulders in Nam. That's exactly what it was.
I always thought the funniest thing I ever saw was in Kelly's Heroes when you had.
That's a good point. Somebody said it was terminal velocity going down into dirt. Most of it was hard packed dirt. That's a good point.
Yeah. And you got soft target flesh. I mean, we know what those bullets are going to do. But
so sad.
The spiritual side to this is we're not thinking about it. And we've got to begin to analyze this from, regardless of what the conspiracy is. I don't care. That I'm not going to get into. What I want to know is, when are we going to wake up to knowing that evil acts can be so easily created from the ether? Why is it such a struggle, Jeff, for us to create the positive good out of the ether into the material?
Yeah. And we can, but we have to first realize that it's real. We have to recognize that it's real. But to think about somebody manifesting, the dark arts to get it, to get that done is, that's sobering to say.
Did you see that picture that they took him where his eyes was closed?
Yeah, that's the only one I've seen of him.
Yeah, and I told Lynn, I said, isn't that odd? I said, you know, when someone actually just closes their eyes, knowing that you're going to take their picture and what have you, you know, you could read a lot into that. I mean, that's an individual
Yeah.
who is not seeing
Mhm.
what you and I are seeing.
You know, Wayne, I hate to say this, but I feel like I should say it, and I know it's going to upset some people, but I don't think there was any mass shootings in Tombstone ever.
What do you mean?
I mean, when all the in Tombstone, Arizona, in the Old West, I don't think they had
No,
mass shootings.
I don't think they did either.
I don't think they had anybody go shoot 50, 60 people without getting taken out. That's just
No,
an observation.
no, because you know what? Everybody else was packing. I mean, that's a great scene, by the way, when Wyatt Earp went in there and said, "Well, come on, boy, you going to skin that mule?" You know,
You're going to skin that mule, you're just going to
yeah,
stand there and
yeah,
bleed.
yeah. Yeah, because who would be stupid enough to do that? Chances are you're going to get shot.
Is it possible that the answer is more guns?
Well, listen, I say this is that we should have open carry.
You know, Wayne, people are going to not believe it, but I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I
They
think
never had mass shootings in the
no.
Wild Wild West.
You know, it's only when you de-arm the population that the bad guys got the upper hands.
That's true.
And you know, that's like saying that we'd have to ban cars.
Somebody said, how many mass shootings have there been in Texas?
Exactly. Yeah, I think the last one was up there at the tower back in the 70s. And
Yeah, right.
that ain't going to happen anymore. And they do
Father
have
was a bank robber. I don't know what relevance that has. He was on the FBI most wanted list as a bank robber.
Well, you know, we got a real problem up here in Colorado. We got a lot of bank robberies.
Really?
Oh, man. And it seems to come in ebbs and cycles. Yeah, it's like there for a while, it's like that's all what you heard every other day on the news, another bank robbery. And you're going, well, what are they doing? Graduating these guys or something?
Crazy.
But I think at this point that, listen, we don't ban cars. We don't ban bars. I mean,
Yep.
This is the irony that I think. So we make it legal that you can go into a drinking establishment and get drunk and still drive.
Yeah.
And, you know, well, that's crazy.
It is.
But it happens.
You know, the fact of the matter is, Wayne, and whether we like to admit it or not, it's true. Politicians prefer unarmed peasants.
Well, I'll tell you what I tell my congressman and my senator, and I do call them. They know me. I think they got me up and going, oh, crap, it's him again.
Here comes Steiger again.
Yeah. And is that the founding fathers never designed a government for politicians. They designed a government for statesmen. We don't have statesmen anymore.
They were supposed to go for 4 or 6 years and then go back to their whatever they did. It never. That's why, you know, Wayne, it's never going to happen. If they made me president or king of America for a day, the first thing I would do is eliminate all pensions for any elected official, period.
Yep.
No pensions you don't get a nickel of retirement for if you were an elected official. And I'd probably put most of that into the retirement benefits for the military folks.
Oh, you know, the other thing I would then ask you to also, while you're doing that, is that any new law that is to be passed, 5 old ones have to be repealed.
I agree 100%. Didn't Mr. Trump try to make a promise like that, but he's found out it's a little bit more difficult to make it happen?
Yeah, you know, say what you want, you know, about President Trump, is that, you know, the guy, people don't look at this from a right perspective. That man is a human soul. And he was already rich enough. He didn't have to take the job like the last guy did to get rich. You know, and that's what I don't like, is that you get a president who is basically a pauper, and that's what the previous president was, because that's all he did was social organizing. You don't get rich doing that.
He became a rock star president.
Yeah, he did. And he leaves office mighty wealthy. And, you know, I don't like that. And listen,
and with a pension for life.
Pension for life.
It's over. Cut it off.
Yeah. And
you're not supposed to be there was in the founding fathers had no idea of this concept of a professional politician. And they got him on the Republican side just as much on the Democratic side. I have no problem telling John McCain to hit the road. I got no problem telling Harry Reid to hit the road.
Well, Pelosi, all
6
of them.
years, you're done.
Yeah,
period.
They are. Well, here's the thing. Let's just get real serious. If you want to really study what our government was, our government was never meant to be a democracy. It was a republic.
It's a representational republic.
And a federal government was never to be this all-encompassing beast. It was to have the states rule with, in fact, if you read what the Constitution...
Why, Wayne Steiger, you sound like a Confederate.
Listen, I got the best education one night.
Trump is not a member of the Knights of Templar.
Yeah.
Trump is not a Freemason, period.
He's not. But I'll finish this.
Freemason to be a member of the Knights Templar.
The best lesson I ever got in constitutional law was that I had dinner with General Ed Meese.
Thank you, Lee.
And what Ed Meese taught me about how the structure of government was to begin with, he said basically the federal government was to do three things. Number one, protect the shores. Number one, ensure commerce and trade. And number three, basically leave the states alone.
What does it say? It says promote the general welfare, provide for the common defense, and
the general. I
forgot the third one, but that's all that it's. And
that's it.
And the Constitution says that the federal government is expressly forbidden of performing any act that is not expressly
provided by the state.
By the states.
Yeah. I mean,
we have been, just like we've been taken over by a lying God, we've been taken over by lying governments.
Well, this government was dedicated to that God.
Absolutely. They work in cahoots, but you can't talk about that. You can talk about the politics all you want, but don't start talking about the Christian religion that backs the politics, because then you can't go any further.
Well, here, I'll say this out here for everybody. What our government was founded on was pagan occultism.
It was deism at best.
It's a fact, folks.
It's a fact.
These guys were not only initiates, they were graduated to masters.
They were, like you said, master initiates. They were all high-level Freemasons with the possible exception of Jefferson. There's no record that Jefferson was an actual Freemason. He was made an honorary one, but they didn't look like he was actually one.
I don't think he was ever allowed on the inner side. George Washington, when you study that cat,
Jefferson was just too much of a wild card.
Well, I think that's what he probably was. I mean, you know, he was what they termed, he was ignorant. He didn't understand the alchemy of transformation.
Yeah.
And it's transmutation is what it is. Transmutation. Yeah. And you know, when you study Washington, when they dedicated the monolith, the obelisk there in Washington, D.C.
The Washington Monument.
Woo, folks, there was some heavy, there were some spells being cast. That's all I got to say.
You know, they were an aluminum capstone originally.
Aluminum?
Aluminum, solid aluminum. I don't. Maybe somebody can tell us the significance of that, but that's what it was. It was aluminum.
Well, do you see what I have back behind me? I got my periodic table out.
I saw that.
So I'm really starting to listen. Alchemy is the answer. It really is. And I have, for instance, a document here, Jeff, that I've been studying on, and it's just fantastic. It's called, get this, you're going to love this.
Aluminum.
Aluminum. So this is...
The Brits say aluminium.
Aluminium. So this is the Alchemist's Catechism.
Oh, wow.
And
It bothers me that they have a catechism, but I understand what you're saying.
Well, this was actually written back in the 1766. So you have to understand the cultures. It's always amazing me. We can see the cultural difference from 400 years ago, but yet we can't seem to rationalize a cultural difference from 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, and that's something.
Isn't that odd? You know,
odd.
Yeah. And I think it's the catechisms and that's what it is. It's catechisms, not catechism.
Okay.
So in here, you begin to understand.
Aluminum was the most valuable rare metal at that time, and I read that. I think that's actually correct.
Probably is, because in here I found out that there are two different types of gold. There is dead gold, and then there is the gold that is alive. And I had never really understood that those who try to go into alchemy. Well, that's what I looked at it, and it's actually how it's developed.
Interesting.
If you want to make gold out of lead, let's just say, and seek that,
right,
that's dead gold.
Okay.
No life into it.
Gotcha.
If you have the gold of the earth, and when you mix it with mercury and how it separates, it's all in here. And I'm going, wow, this is heavy stuff.
That is amazing.
So you can use
pardon the pun, because it is heavy stuff too.
It is heavy stuff, man. But actually gold is considered the down on the bottom. There's apparently other alchemy that man is not even. There's a thing called astral gold.
Astral gold.
Yes. Three sorts: astral gold, elementary gold, and vulgar gold.
Interesting.
What is astral gold? Well, I'll just read this to you right now. Astral gold has its center in the sun, which communicates it by its rays and all inferior beings. It is an igneous substance which receives a continual emanation of solar corpuscles that penetrate all things sentient, vegetable, and mineral.
Now, Anna reminds us very wisely that there's also fool's gold.
Ah, there we go. So that is just on what the good gold, the astral gold is.
That's amazing stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, it's there. It's what I'm beginning to find out, that we need to start teaching this, Jeff. We need to start bringing this into, I say bring this into preschool. Begin to teach children. I read this in one of the books I'm reading. This one right here. I just got this, and it's a great book. It's for the beginning. Pardon?
I couldn't see because I got my thing moved over. What does it say? Real Alchemy, a primer of practical alchemy.
Yeah. So it's a great book, Robert Allen Bartlett. And what I'm beginning to realize, that this journey, I think that there's a lot of people out there listening to us and listening on other channels that for some reason we all seem to be arriving at the station, and we're all looking around, Jeff, going, how'd you get here? And you're hearing the stories, and the stories are coming from all walks of life. And you know what station we're at? We're at the station called the beginning of knowledge again, and it's called alchemy.
Jen, why do you carry a pyrite rock in your pocket? I'm just interested. And I hope I'm interesting, but I'm definitely interested.
What did she say?
She didn't say anything yet. She just said that she has iron pyrite in her pocket. So I was wondering why she has it.
I'm learning that you can have certain minerals that will actually emanate a certain energy.
Yes.
Yep. And if you combine those with crystals in the different class of crystals, some amazing stuff can begin to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to do it a lot. I kind of got out of it because I guess I didn't really see the efficacy in it enough to keep doing it. Was to put crystals in my water and drink crystal infused water.
Wow, I had never thought about that.
I did that for a long time.
Well, I did a video day before, that let me tell you, Jeff, if we had spent the last 4,000 years developing our consciousness, our minds. I did this whole thing how you can actually see your brain. I showed people how you can do that. We used to do it as kids. When you rolled your eyes up when you're outside playing and you saw that weird kind of thing that had veins all over it, that's your brain. And we can see it. And now as adults, we can actually train ourselves. The point is this. If we had spent the last 3,000 to 4,000 years developing the mind, understanding that we can create from the unseen instead of worshiping after false deities, we could have begun to evolve our bodies. Do you know, Jeff?
Absolutely.
The body we have right now is a most inefficient design.
Yeah. Lee Veltman says frozen quartz makes good bourbon chillers.
There you go.
And there's ladies talking about putting various things into various orifices. So,
well, I didn't realize this, and someone on my channel pointed this out. Do you know that the human skin was designed to actually do all of our breathing, all of our feeding, and all of our waste production, and never having the lungs, the digestive system? There was no need for it. It's a very inefficient matter of actually expending energy.
wow, that's very interesting.
So I think that, again, just finish up my point, we're all at the station now, and we're all trying to figure out then where do we need to be going? I mean, you're doing a great job just in the fact, because I've been watching your videos. It's all part of that process of actually beginning to tell people, listen, we don't need to be chasing after these unseen deities. What really we need to be looking at is what can we see? And
Right.
the only thing I ever see, Jeff, and correct me, is that I just see humanity.
You're right.
I mean, that's all I see.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
So what's the answer to that? Well, the answer is, again, the answer lies within. Listen, Cat Stevens on Tea for the Tillerman, you know, go back and listen to that album again. And there was a man who was definitely on the path.
Cat Stevens.
Yeah. That Tea for the Tillerman is one of the most phenomenal albums out there. It's well written. But the point is, he said, the answer lies within, my friend.
Ah.
You know, and he says that, I like the one line he says that, my body has been a good friend of mine, but it is going to be time that when I lay it down, it's for me to begin to move on. And I'm kind of ad-libbing there, but yeah. And I think that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
I think so. Does
this get back to ISIS, you think, this guy in Vegas?
You know, here's what I'll just say to this. Evil is evil, no matter what name you give it. And I don't think that and if you assign a name of the evil to it, I think then you're politicizing. And I think that we've got to stop with the bigotry. And in bigotry, because bigotry, you know, it's like that CBS lawyer that was an executive, where she said, well, I have absolutely no feeling of compassion or remorse because most people who like country music are Republicans. Wait a minute. I mean, and I bet you that, you know, that she thinks that she's an enlightened individual. But when you've got that type of mindset going out there, Jeff, this is nuts. So what I'm saying, evil is evil. This man was evil. And, you know, he went out, and I'm reading enough books because no one knows for sure, but it certainly seems that kind of evil, they're going to go to a place that we're going to see them. And you're going to see them as you're passing through, because that type of evil, it sticks with you. It does.
Interesting.
So what they're saying in the chat room?
You wouldn't believe it if you read it.
Are they throwing sticks at us yet?
No, there's just a lot of. Sometimes I wonder if these guys are actually listening to the show that we're doing sometimes, because it goes off in so many different directions and different tangents. It's crazy.
Well, we definitely give the fuel for the fodder. So, and I think it's this kind of straightforwardness that you can say what it really is. Listen, I've not seen where political correctness has benefited us at all. I mean, I really haven't. And
no.
So here's a thought for everyone. So when we talk about efficiencies, our bodies, our body functions, let's talk now about our minds, what we would define as the soul. I don't know if the mind is the expression of the soul or if the soul is the expression of the mind, because the mind is not the brain. The mind is what we see. The brain just sends the impulse. It's the mind that assimilates the actual image that we begin to make connection to. So let's talk about efficiency of communication. Words are the worst form of communication.
They really are.
How many arguments, how many people have died over one word taken the wrong way that was never intent?
Very inefficient communication.
Yeah. I mean, I know you see it sometimes on the live, people take what you said and you're going, well, where'd you get that at? Well, that's what I heard you say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's not what I heard myself say. Exactly. I'm not saying that you could get so much into a pattern of saying something that you do become, audio immune from hearing it.
Yeah. People don't always hear what you say the way you meant to say it. That's for sure.
No. So on a discussion here that we can talk about in maybe our Sunday program or whatever, but in one of the chapters of this book I'm reading actually talks about humanity from the very beginning, why humanity seeks by necessity to inebriate itself.
That's a good question. Why does it seek to inebriate itself? I mean, I've been with people that couldn't have a good time unless they had a couple drinks.
And it goes on with narcotics. It goes on. Yeah. We are a master at taking plants and altering their alchemy.
Because I don't think that I think people are afraid of silence. I think people are afraid to think. People don't want to hear what's really going on. They don't want to deal with what's really going on. So they drug themselves.
And you know what this book's teaching? You know what that cause is? It's called intemperance. Intemperance,
yes. I agree 100%. And plus we're trained to do it by he that shall not be named. I no longer name him anymore, Wayne. It's just he that shall not be named, because I think he takes energy when you say his name.
And people got to realize that's exactly what happens. Do you know why people remain alive and sometimes attached, I think, to the spirit realm around here? Is that because when you invoke their name, it sends that energy into the ethereal plane as well.
Yeah.
Because, and
that tone scale is actually pretty useful piece of information. Sorry, that's something between me and Lee that nobody else will get.
So I think that when we begin to realize how effective the ethereal plane is, it's just right next door.
It's very effective.
Yeah. And that's why these deities, listen, I told Lynn, I said, I'm not going to do anything on my channel on the event that happened on Monday. She said, why? I said, I got this sense that there is something very malevolent, and it is standing there just soaking this grief up.
Absolutely.
Soaking this negative energy.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I mean, Jeff, it's almost like I could see it in my third eye. It's hideous. It's a form that in the book Night World, if everyone ever wants to read a good book by F. Paul Wilson, they're actually going into a hole that has been opened up from the inside out.
Night World?
Yes. It's one of the best best fiction books you guys will read. It is deep. So as they're going down, he gives a description of what a living darkness is.
Oh,
What's that?
That's good. A living dark.
A living darkness. And so as this diving bell is going down into this hole, they get down to about a mile, and the two scientists that are in there, they start saying something's wrong. The light is being absorbed, and they could see this living darkness begin to penetrate the diving bell. This is what I think, folks, is taking residence over the United States.
And
I think
is it Night World or Night Watch?
No, Night World.
Okay. Somebody was
asking. Yep. Great book. And so, Jeff, we don't think about this thing. I think that there has been an alteration. You see, I believe that these high-ranking deities, particularly that feed off confusion, feed off this absolute hate, grief, they're setting themselves up, and I think they're setting up a kingdom over us.
Yeah. And that's why the only thing I said about it was to make sure that we do not, that we starve the blood gods.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, because let me tell you
what. I think they can take energy from anger directed at them from us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So you think they can eat anger? Anger's not good?
Yeah. I listen, it's anger. What is anger? It's just that if you're mad at somebody, all right, we all get mad at somebody. Yeah. I mean, my wife
is... Christ said, be angry, but sin not. That's why I wonder, is there a constructive anger?
I think there is. You know, I just wrote this yesterday to someone. I said, do not let anger coalesce inside of you, because it will dry your bones as well as your soul.
Yeah.
And in fact, the book of Proverbs says that arthritis is a result of anger.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, and medical science has proven it. Listen, you see people that suffer from rheumatoid arthritis, and particularly as they get older, you will find that to a greater degree that these people have deep-seated anger, and they can't let it go.
And if you look at that, it's consistently true.
It is. I mean, we see it a lot, and it's because they can't let go. I tell my wife all the time, I said, this is what we need, these enlightenment centers. We need to know where people can go. And listen, religion hasn't solved that problem. It's still here. It won't. Politics will never solve that problem. Society will never solve that problem, because it's one of these things that it's a contagion, but then it comes entrapped in a person because they can't let go.
That's right.
So
a root of bitterness creeps up.
Yes, yes. And listen, the philosophers, the alchemists, they knew these things. They were, as I'm finding out, there would not be science today if there was not the alchemists before.
That's correct. That's 100% correct.
So if we could begin to work within, look at the knowledge that you have, Jeff. 40 years of studying, and really what you were studying was the human condition. It was just filtered through a different viewpoint of how to resolve the problem.
That's true. About 20 years of it was, I sometimes think it was wasted, but I guess I learned the ways not to do it.
Well, yeah. And I mean, you know what? Only old age teaches you that.
That's true.
I tell people on my channel, I said, listen, we have it backwards in society. We should be honoring. Listen, if you make it to 60, number one, you should be recognized at the fact that you made it to 60.
I agree.
Then I think then that there should be the opportunity for all 60-year-olds and further to go back and start doing the things that they wanted to do. And I think the first thing of that is then getting themselves, how do we say, enlightened enough to know that there is a better journey.
Right.
Look at yourself. You see, what I see, what you provide, Jeff, is that there's an opportunity that people are wanting to say, well, all right, I need a coach. And you know what? That's really a smart thing to do. Because it's the master that's teaching the student, and eventually the student will become the master.
hopefully that's the way it's supposed to work.
No,
I agree.
in
100%.
theory, in theory. So
And but
that's,
you know, in the new age, you know, in this whole realm that we're supposedly in, you got people that are just barely better than the pastors and the priests, because what they really want to do is continue to create dependency in people, so they have to keep coming to them instead of creating people that can reproduce what they do. I say this, and a lot of people get mad at me. If you can't teach somebody to do what you do in 6 months, then you better start learning to do it better.
yeah, yeah.
There should not be the cycle of dependency. I got to go to my guru. I got to go to my psychic. I got to go to my spirit guide. I got to go to my life coach.
No, the idea is for you to begin to learn.
I agree.
When I was a young man, I started my career out in the building trades, and I was a drywall finisher.
Oh, okay.
I was a member of the painters union, and we had a 2-year apprenticeship program.
Wow.
And the idea wasn't to keep you as an apprentice. The idea is that every day that you are on the job, you should be learning a little bit more to perfect your skill. You know what we were? I didn't realize this, but we were actually what they called adepts.
Yeah, you were initiates.
Exactly. That's what we were. And little did I know that the trades, if you look at the carpenters union, the pipe fitters, electrical, all of these originated from alchemy.
Yeah.
It was the alchemists who taught us these skills.
Absolutely.
But today we have become so blinded and dependent on technology and others to do the thinking that we now have multiple generations who are completely inept in understanding and dealing with life.
Instead of adept.
Exactly. You know, we don't need more universities. What we should be doing, listen, we should be bringing back trade schools.
Absolutely.
And by the way, the trade schools, folks, work both ways. It works in the building trades and the creative trades. And we should have an appreciation for that. But Jeff, I don't know. I sometimes really get concerned when I see where we are today as a society. It's so bitter out there, so divided. It's crazy.
It is. It's sad. And I mean, what can we really do? What do you think are some practical things that we can do?
Well, it's like we're finding that there's other conscious groups out there that, for instance, there's a lot of people who are using every, I think, Wednesday at 10 o'clock, and they have a variance of about 12 hours so everyone can have the same time. I'm seeing more and more of these groups forming that want to have their input to the collective consciousness.
That's excellent.
I think so as well. Listen, I still say we should be able to have a summit, a YouTube summit of YouTube creators that are into the betterment of the collective consciousness come together and have a summit to where you could have an all-day event and not have anyone have to leave anywhere.
Right. That makes perfect sense.
And I think that that's why if we start using this technology instead of, I didn't realize this, Jeff. Do you know that there are 40-somethings out there that are addicted to video games?
I just shake my head at that.
What? Yeah. I was reading in a magazine in psychology that...
Okay, enough of pumping the channel about Vegas. Enough of that. Don't make me block you, please.
That these people live in an alternate reality. I never realized this. That they can go and do their normal function in the job, but they're constantly plugged into I guess it's the role-playing games.
Yeah, those exactly.
Yeah, it's like I said, people really do this? Oh yeah, and you know what? I'll tell you how I found out about it. There's a payment system. There is a complete part of the payment industry dedicated to gamers.
Well, Wayne, there's YouTube channels that are just gamer channels watching you broadcast your gaming.
Really?
So there's YouTube channels that people are YouTubing and watching people play games.
I didn't know that.
Oh, absolutely. It's like watching the NFL or something. It's like Veltman says, we are programmed to receive.
Yes, yes. You know, you can check out anytime you want.
Speaking of good music, the Eagles, I like the Eagles.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, we can't submit to the fear. We can't submit to giving the blood gods power. And I think you hit on something very powerful. We can't give in to the hatred either, because even if let's take it beyond Vegas, the places where it is Islamic radical terrorism that's doing things, being mad at the radical Islamic terrorists is not the answer. Look at what's behind the radical Islamic terrorists.
Well, Jeff, let's just take it one step further. So you're angry at ISIS, that these guys are doing all this. What the problem is, that anger, those individuals could care less. That anger is being fed by the deity.
Yep.
It's a form of worship, Jeff.
Yep.
Your anger is going to go somewhere. There is going to be something that's going to take that energy. Folks, it's the law of conservation, and it's one of the principles of the laws of the physical universe. Energy does not just simply dissipate.
So there's no anger that we can project as a weapon?
Well, you got the thing called righteous anger.
I'm asking you. I'm just wondering.
Yeah. Well, I think that, you know, when you get into the righteous anger, what I would say this is that I would have the anger of that I would want to alter the material that they're using.
Absolutely.
I think Jeff, let me just say this. I am beginning to...
Oh, you know what you do? You're talking about alchemy. You take your energy, you take your anger, and you transmute it into positive power in the ether.
Bingo.
To move it away.
Yeah.
So it's not really, you got to transmute your anger. That's such a good point, Lane.
Yeah.
You've got to alchemize your anger. You got to transmute your anger.
It's something that the knowledge, you know, I had someone in my channel come that, and I said, well, wait a minute. So you're saying that this is an absolute fact, but then I said, but what you're really saying is that mankind knows all the knowledge that's going to need to know, and there's nothing else for us to go and start searching for.
What year was it when they were going to shut down the U.S. Patent Office because everything that had been invented?
1894. Yeah, it's like where everything's been invented. No, folks, listen, it's by the alchemists. This is why we need to train alchemists. We have them today in different fields. The chemist, you have the geologist, you have the different disciplines. And what they don't see it is that they don't see themselves as alchemists. They see themselves as scientists, and that's the problem, because alchemists understood something. They understood that there was a physical world, and then there's what we call the ethereal or the spiritual part.
So how do we transmute that anger into positive energy?
Well, I think that number one, you've got to realize that you're not going to give this unseen deity your energy.
Gotcha.
You know, you can say, listen, I am really mad about this, but what I'm going to go and do, why don't I come in here and start creating a world inside? I read in one account, in one ancient book that was written back in 1766, and it said that upon that point of death, that what you carry in that moment at death frames your existence, at least at the very beginning, going in. And this is what people call purgatory, or that in-between state. That's where that term came from. Now, the church just happened to monopolize it into a different point.
Right. Right. So that's exactly what you do. You take the anger, you recognize that you're angry, and you begin to create a better and a more efficient and more effective energetic eminence to move out of the way.
So I can hear someone thinking about, betrayal. So how do I deal with betrayal? Because
what we have to realize, Wayne, the bottom line is nobody makes you feel anything.
Bingo.
You get to choose what you feel. Well, they did something that made me angry. No. They did something that you chose to take that stimuli and respond with anger. You can take that same stimuli and respond with powerful intention of a positive nature.
I think so.
Oh, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Jeff, we don't realize how, when we say that we're sovereign sentient beings, folks, we're light beings. I'm convinced of that.
Yeah.
I mean,
either you're divine, you're sovereign, and you're free, or you're not.
You're not. Yeah.
And the only reason you're not is because you don't know that you're divine, that you're sovereign, and that you're free.
You know, I have incidents during the day today where I could just really been very angry. But what I'm learning, Jeff, that there's nothing so permanent that can harm me in any way but death itself. And I'm not going to get angry. I'm not going to allow it to elevate my blood pressure, elevate, you know, my heart rate, and begin to invoke the negative forces that happens. I'm in a sphere, and I've learned that I want my sphere to remain translucent. I don't want it to become cloudy.
Yeah. And wasn't it the Christ that said, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he?
You know, I was thinking about this today, Jeff, the words that people use, that the Christ, and he wasn't Jesus, but the Christ, whoever wrote those words, they are really words that have such, in each one of them, there is a corpuscle of positive life energy.
Right. Yeah, people ask me, well, how do you know what's diamond and what's dung in the New Testament? You just know. You just got to get to where you know.
Yeah. Down in Texas, they have this thing called bull nettle. Any of you folks down in Texas know what I'm talking about. Now, here's the odd thing about it. It's a prickly plant that if you touch it, it's going to sting the living daylights out of you. That's all it's got. But if you can learn how to pick it, you can actually take the thistles off of it, the little things that'll stab you, and it can actually be eaten.
It's called bull nettle?
Uh-huh. Yep. Check it out. You can look at it. Huh?
Is that a joke?
No, it's actually there. Actually, you can look it online. Just go to, go to the altar of the all-knowing oracle.
Why would you want to eat it?
Well, because in nature, 100 years ago, they didn't have grocery stores.
Really?
Well, think about it. A lot of that food, it's like, who'd ever thought that down in Louisiana, when I learned that you could have dandelion.
Nettle. Okay, bull nettle.
Yeah,
I was nettle. Bull
nettle. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. But dandelion, you can eat that as a garden. It's like,
yeah, dandelion is good in the salad.
Yeah. So I like mustard greens. Some people just say, well, but I love that, but my point is, you can find edible plants. We just don't have that knowledge anymore.
That's very, very much so.
So, that's the great thing about us, Jeff, as we continue to age. And folks, we're all getting older. So, I'm learning something. Again, we lost Tom Petty, and I'm thinking 66.
Yeah, that's not that old, is it?
No. Nope.
Now, he probably lived a pretty hard life, you would think, but
could he have lived any harder than, let's say, Keith Richards or Ron Woods?
Keith Richards is just an anomaly.
I mean, the guy is embalmed. Yeah, he is. He's 74. I mean, I swear the dude's embalmed, man. I mean, and that dude shot up heroin and everything else for years.
Yes.
I don't know if Tom Petty was ever a heroin addict. I mean, I don't think so. But yeah, you look at some of these cats. I mean, you're going, okay. Now you look at.
McCartney's pushing 80, right?
75.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he did. He did a lot of LSD in his day.
Yeah, he did. And look at Mick Jagger. I mean, Mick Jagger is. I didn't realize that dude is like really in shape.
I saw Mick Jagger in Orlando, and I was real close, and it was windy, and his shirt's blowing up. He's like ripped. He's got like 6.
Yeah.
I'm like,
no kidding.
Mick Jagger, get out of here.
He says that he does, when they go on tour, he starts by doing 3 hours of ballet.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's an intense stamina.
It is. I couldn't believe it.
And I still contend this is that I asked this question: if you could live for 1,000 years, would you want to?
That wasn't a six pack. That was his ribs.
That really, but would you really want to live if you could for 1,000 years?
Well, I mean, if I happened to live for 1,000 years, I would do it. But I mean, I wouldn't take any means to keep myself alive. I mean, I'm not going to kill myself.
Let's just say if they, and I think they will. I think in the next 100 years they're going to unlock the gene that where you could literally live 500. What I didn't realize is that there are breathing exercises that we could teach our young people that would consume less than 40% of the 70% of their vital energy by learning how to breathe right.
Wow, that's interesting.
And who would have known that we're breathing wrong?
Oh, yeah, we don't know how to breathe.
No, we don't. We don't. It's just so weird. So I was thinking about this, that if I could live in a time of, let's say, the golden era, where people were really seeking that, and I think that that's where the gods got pissed off at us.
Yeah.
They were realizing that we were ascending, and we were ascending fast. And
that would be interesting. That really would be interesting.
It's just a thought, but you know, something has been fighting to keep us retarded.
Yeah.
And I know that's an old word, but it's what they've done is to retard our growth.
And the thing, and people say, oh, it's the FAA and it's the government and it's the EPA and it's Monsanto and it's, yeah, it is, but they're not really the ones that are doing it. They're just working for the ones that are doing it. They're just profiting from it. It's the God behind the scene that's doing it.
You know, it's almost like the movie Soylent Green.
Yep, Soylent Green, man.
I swear, folks, man, they just ain't feeding us the biscuit yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
I think it's getting close because you just look at the whole situation. I was reading something on the production of food. Folks, we're reaching a point here of what they call the tipping point. And somewhere down the road, you know, it's only going to take, as they said, one event in the northern hemisphere. The southern hemisphere had their worst harvest. Australia, some 60 to 75% of their grains reduction. The drought, and you look in other parts of India, you look in parts of China. Yeah. So I'm going, okay, we better start getting ourselves in tune. And that is to start the divide. Listen, if we could make a commitment, have a contract, every person who was wanting to basically start the ascension process for our collective consciousness, that we do three things. Number one, we don't worship our religions, we don't worship our politics, and we don't worship our class. Now, if we could get those three things where we say that we're not going to rely and go back on them, that then begins to give us, Jeff, a springboard of going, so what's our best route? Well, the first thing I would say is harmony. You know, we've got to get harmony. And it's not peace. Peace can be easily manipulated, and that word has. But harmony is a word that you can't manipulate.
That's true.
Think about it. I can say peace to you. Well, someone's going to say, uh-oh, well, you know, that's the sign that Churchill was given by the Callister, the guy that was really into the occult.
Oh, Crowley.
Crowley, thank you. That this is what he gave Churchill to counter the Nazis adapting the power of the Nazi cross.
The twisted cross.
Yeah.
I never heard that story.
Yeah. Yep. So I didn't realize that Crowley was there in meeting with Churchill quite regularly, and FDR as well. I didn't realize that they actually hired alchemists on their staff. And do you know, I found out even the United States today, in the CIA, the NSA, in these other intelligent gathering offices, and in every branch, they have, ready for this, they got people that know the arts. And I'm talking not the arts that you would think. These are the alchemist arts.
So Wayne, you're telling me that Crowley gave Churchill the peace sign?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And by the way, just do any cursory on the same thing. You know, where do you want me to go with this?
I mean, I do the peace sign. That's my thing.
Yeah. And that's how I grew up. You know, that was the thing that we always did down the street.
Wow.
But never realizing that, you know, again, if you start looking at the cultic symbols of what these signs mean, it's like sign language. It's meaningless to you, but until the person who knows how to read it, it's speaking volumes.
So what does this mean?
Well, this was a counter to the hex.
Okay.
That's what it was. That
it was like the red thing around your wrist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's what it was. And that's where you seen Churchill, when he learned that, that's wherever he went. That was his moniker.
Interesting.
You know, it's
it worked.
It did work. You know, the Nazis, you can say what you want for the Nazis, but they were really on to this whole, they understood that there was something that had been lost. And
the unseen world, that's for sure.
And here's an interesting take that I hadn't looked at it before. They thought that the Jews of the world were the black alchemists, that they had knowledge that they were not sharing. You know, I know another character in history that did that as well. His name was Vespasian.
Yeah.
So it goes back.
Very interesting.
Isn't it? It's throughout there. And so the campaign is,
you talked about that, Wayne. I mean, if you were a blood god, right? If you were a blood god and you gained power from bloodshed, and if you gained power from people praying to you, what better way could you ensure a perpetual blood production machine and a perpetual prayer machine than to take a swath of prime real estate out of the middle of a bunch of Muslim lands and give it to some Jewish people, throw out the Muslim people, put the Jewish people there and say, have fun? Is there any better way to create a perpetual bloodshed, perpetual warfare, and perpetual prayers from both sides, not to mention set up a whole world of underlings that can forever profit on funding both sides of wars?
Well, yeah, and according to the search, if you read that, the evidence shows that the Catholic Church was actually the one that invented Islam.
I've heard that. I haven't looked into it.
Well, there's good foundation for it, because the thing was that they had to have what they considered a front line of defense. And the best way to do that was to build something, again. The point is that when Christianity was started, the reason why it was started was to be an insult to the Jews forever. They took their God. Then you take it one step further, that Islam comes in and then takes their patriarch.
Right, exactly. And I'm removing, somebody put a peace sign up. I'm removing that because the peace sign is the death rune. It's the life rune turned upside down into the death rune. So you really shouldn't use the peace sign. Use it right side up as the life rune. Don't use it upside down as the death rune.
Yep. So when you think about this, it's the perfect mind game. I mean, you set up a religion that you basically create. And it's the same thing they did with Christianity. They were really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they had fears. I mean, listen, I keep on saying, and I agree with you. I think Moshe took something from Egypt that he was never supposed to be taking.
And I talked about this the other day. There's no historical evidence that the Jews were slaves in Egypt and that the Exodus is true. I think they attacked Egypt. Moses was an inside job. They tried to attack Egypt, and he grabbed something from there, and that's why they split, and that's why Pharaoh went after him, because he grabbed some technology. He may have grabbed the Ark of the Covenant, and the Ark of the Covenant was probably never Hebraic or Jewish. It was Egyptian, and they stole it.
Well, I listen, I have no doubt of that. And, you know, when you think about the whole story, we don't have a history in any of the hieroglyphs and any of the monuments of a large mass of, of Hebrews. We just don't find them.
No.
So I've read many times that if you looked at this from a cultural perspective, if you were working on a deity's monument, would you be a slave? No, these were craftsmen. These were men who knew. They had villages set up. That's how they worked. You know,
she thinks Moses took the philosopher's stone.
Hey, I think that there could be good point on that. He was a master. He was no doubt about it. He was taught in
the stones that were on the breastplate?
The ephod. I've often said that was a communication device.
Yep.
I really do. And I think that those stones were cut in such a way that if you had a deity that's operating at a level of knowledge, you could have, what is a deity doing? He is mastering the four elements. Yeah. And if you look at it in some of them, I've gotten a lot of people who have sent me some, there's actually 6 elements, because we should have already had developed telekinesis and telepathy already. With those 2 skills mastered, we become masters of the ether, of the elements here.
We do.
And here's the other thing, folks. I'm finding out that in the ether, there are elements yet to be discovered by man.
Oh, no doubt. There's got to be.
Yeah. We'll never graduate to the next class until we get the basics down.
Absolutely. And we don't have the basics down at all, do we?
No, we don't. We don't. I think that this is the biggest fear of those of the unseen in the power control. Whether you want to call them the keepers, that's what I've been told is their proper name. They're called the keepers.
And who are the keepers?
They are a select class from the royal family. Mm-hmm. And it's not it's the royals. And
from all the royals of all the world.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You know, so hear me out. Do you remember the movie They Live?
Yes.
They had Roddy Piper in there that was in there. Watch that movie again, folks, because what it was really saying is that we are already living in a controlled environment. We just can't see it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. like George Carlin said, it's a big club and you ain't in it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, what I don't like about it is they didn't even let us into the door. No. And I'm not going to die going to my next destiny, not making the stance and saying, I'm not going to be accused that I didn't seek the knowledge.
Exactly. And that's why you'll be able to negotiate the labyrinth, because you're going in it with the right frame of mind.
Yeah, I'm preparing, Jeff. And I think that that's what we have to do. And you know what I'm finding out? I'm having the best time of life. I can go out now, I can cut a branch, and I can look at this, that tree is a living force.
Yeah.
And as I'm seeing alchemy. What is the tree? Well, the tree is part of earth. It's part of air. And it has water.
Yeah.
Now, where it's going to go, it will go back to the earth, and it will either go back to the earth as a form of fire, or it will go back as the form of water when it disintegrates. So I'm learning these things. I never saw these things before.
And you know, they talk about dumb animals.
No.
And I mean, look at this guy right here. He's laying here sleeping. I move in a table so I can put some books on it. And of course, he thinks I move it in for him to lay on. They call him dumb animals. He's not worried about anything.
No. And let me
stress. He doesn't have any fear. He doesn't have any worry. He's in the moment.
And the amazing thing is, folks, when I see that beautiful animal there, I look at his eyes. Those eyes right there, folks, can see the unseen. They see better in the dark.
Yeah.
Folks.
It's not, we can learn so much. I've learned so much from this cat.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have my dog, and
he worries I'm going to choke him. He's so worried he's going to get choked. He doesn't even care. He knows that he's not ever going to be, he has no worry of danger.
No. And that's where we've
got to have a bit of a weight problem. However, we're working on that.
I'm going to tell you. And the thing about it is that cat isn't worried about, I don't think he's worried about anything.
He's not worried about anything.
So here we got a lower life form, but yet they've got it above us.
Yeah. He's giving me the dirty, hairy eyeball right now, though.
I see him. He's a beautiful cat, by the way. The cat's got personality.
But they're not dumb animals.
No, they're not.
By any means, they're not dumb animals.
We have got to, and I don't think, Jeff, here's the thing. I think that when we start getting it, and it's only going to take a small percentage of the collective consciousness of humanity to get it, I think things are going to start turning really quick. I think
we're almost there.
I do. At some point in time, people have got to realize that this isn't working. None of it's working. The politics aren't working. The social working is not working. The technology is not working.
That's absolutely right. It's absolutely right. And it's the simple things.
It is the simple things.
The little things are the big things, and we just have to tune in.
Well, I have a sense, my friend, that the real big show hasn't even begun yet. And
I agree.
I don't know, folks, if we don't start getting let me just put it this way. If we don't start getting our craniums out of our anuses, and where we can begin to get the fecal matter out of our eyes, we're going to be in deep
ears.
Exactly. I mean, it's so true. It's just, I don't know. Wherever I go now, my concern is I think the conversion, or what I would say the Borg, I think we've been absolutely assimilated. Everyone's on their device, Jeff. Everyone. I don't see people today, even the elderly now. They're on their devices. That's an addiction. That's an addiction.
The zombies are already here.
There we go. Now, what happens?
Good stuff.
Yeah. And, I did a thing on my channel today on the review of Sechi from last month. Jeff, I believe I captured good hard evidence of what I was, and it's just a hypothesis, but I postulate that what we're actually seeing is aircraft technology actually emanating photons as they're moving across.
What do you mean?
Check out the video. There is from Sechi. We can see.
And what is Sechi? Help me out.
It's a satellite. It's out there. Yep. It's on the other side of the sun, and it's in direct. There used to be A and B, but
so it's not our satellite.
It is our satellite. Yep.
And it's on the other side of the sun now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. And it looks at a picture, and it gets it each month. They're quite fascinating, but check it out.
I will.
You see, I believe that, again, as I'm learning, you have to open up your mind and understand that wherever you stop in your reasoning, that's where you're going to stop your learning. What you have to begin to understand and keep yourself open to the fact that there is a reasoning and a knowledge that you don't know about. And that's, again, seeing a person who knows sign language to a person who doesn't. Right. And one, it communicates. So we could be seeing evidence of technology of propulsion systems that we didn't know what we were looking at. That's what I'm saying. Because listen, the deities are out there. There's something out there. And do I think that you could travel in ships? Absolutely, I do. our ancestors told us that someone is.
Yeah. Very interesting stuff. Very powerful stuff.
Well, I hope we've kept them at least.
I think we have. Wayne, what is your channel and your website or anything else you want to give out?
It's just R. Wayne Steiger, and over on YouTube. Now, you know, I think someone has written me and they said, listen, we'd really like to start getting involved with 60 Seconds for Humanity. And the reason why I put it on the back shelf was that, you know, people just weren't interested. And when we get in events like what happened on Monday, people begin to see the vulnerability.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, this idea of doing 60 seconds of positive thought on a worldwide basis for all of humanity, I wonder how much we could change and prevent these type of episodes ever happening again. Because, Jeff, this is what I think. If we got 1 billion people, I mean, the goal is to get 5 billion people plugged into this. But if we got 1 billion people, that would form a virtual dampening blanket around the whole sphere of our planet.
With
and
just 1 billion people out of 8 billion.
Yeah. And, you know, it's a powerful, powerful force that you think about it. We could counter virtually every negative impulse. And as I said, it's a dampening field.
Right.
Think about it.
So it makes it harder for people like this fellow you're saying postulated he was using dark energy to perpetrate this.
Oh, yeah. This was dark energy across the board. Again, as we were talking, just the odds of everything being perfectly set up. Yeah. Let me tell you what, I believe that there'd be things out there that we can't see.
That's for sure.
That's what I say.
For sure. And I took Rex's advice and I watched American Gods the whole season. And then I bought the book today. I'm telling you, man. I am telling you. And there's a note. I wrote this down. I wanted to say this. You know, we talk about how they show us stuff. Why do they show us stuff in the movies and TV? And we say, oh, is it some type of a code where they have to show us? And I wrote down something very profound. So profound I forgot it and I can't find it right now. Let me see if I can put my glasses on and find it, because it really was. Oh, it's not that I'm going to say it's not that, but just consider the idea. Instead of there being some kind of code where they have to tell us what they want us, you know, where they have to tell us what they're going to do, and we have that whole discussion. What if, I mean, people that write television shows and movies are creative people. They're always thinking of ideas. What if they're just, it's because these ideas are in the ether, because the gods are putting it into practice, and these things are in plan, and creative people pick up on that. And that's why it winds up in the movies. It's not because they're making them put it in the movies. It's not because it's controlled opposition. It's not because they have to have the law of clean hands. It's just because they're creative people picking up on what's flowing in the ether. And we should be able to pick up on what's flowing in ether as well. And that's how we will ultimately defeat he that won't be named, because we will know his plans before he tries to do them. And I'm just reminded of a scripture that says that nothing will be done unless the divine reveals it to his servants, the prophets. Mic drop.
Well, there it is. Listen, spot on, because I contend that in the ether has abundancy of frequencies.
Yep.
And that it is a technology of where we will learn one day, instead of having storage devices on our computers or on our memory sticks, we're going to learn that we can actually upload it. All right, think about this, Jeff. Think about fiber optic cable. We're already close to it. Fiber optics is carrying nothing more than knowledge.
Wayne, I'm telling you, we can have a hardwired connection to the divine database right now.
I believe so. And
they can't, this is the beautiful thing, you know, because, you know, a lot of times Rex, you know, he's news driven. He'll talk about, oh my God, this is happening. Oh my God, is that happening? Oh my God, they're doing this. Oh my God, they're doing that. And I'm thinking that's awesome, because they're doing all of this in the electronic etheric realm, because they're realizing that's the strongest way to do it. And they are trying to play on our turf. This is our turf.
Exactly.
They can't do it. They're trying to, they're trying to duplicate it technologically. But we have the real stuff, the original stuff. We are going to beat them if we just tune in. They can't hide anything from us because they have to do it in the ether. And it's our own problem. We just have to learn how to read the ether and tune into it, and it's not that hard to do. We just have to turn off the NFL and turn off the singing contest and turn off who's getting voted on the island and start tuning in and learning how to read and listen to the still small voice of the ether. Alchemy, Wayne, alchemy.
It is alchemy. And, you know, folks, listen, I am so passionate about this. I've got data files of books, and I mean, I can't get enough of this because, Jeff, you're right. This is the answer.
It is the answer.
This is what I've been looking for.
That's why, Wayne, they try to keep us so just. That's why he that shall not be named has his minions who are doing. Their main goal is to keep us distracted.
Yep.
Because the day we stop being distracted and the day we tune in is the day he loses.
And folks, if you have oppression or things like that, start using your name.
Yeah.
One of the things that people don't see, by you saying, Jeff, I'm not going to speak that has no name, that is the worst thing that could happen, because when you stand up and say, in the name of Robert Wayne Steiger, I thus command, that has power, folks.
Because you're divine.
Yes, and my name is my name.
You're divine, you're sovereign, you're free.
And
do yourself a favor, watch American Gods. It's telling you what's going on. Have you watched it at all, Wayne?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And listen, it's connecting to that point. And I'll just end it with this. When you can actually understand that you are a sovereign being, and what do sovereigns do? They rule by their name.
Exactly. By their signet ring. I need a signet ring, Wayne. Where can I get a signet ring?
Oh, well, that would look good for you on that. It's like now, like on my wedding ring,
it's just called American Gods. And I realized that the guy that does American Gods is Brian Fuller, the guy who did Hannibal. I love his work. He's amazing. It's the best stuff that's ever been on TV, in my opinion, Hannibal and American Gods.
Yeah, it's just like the movie Legion.
That was tremendous too.
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you what, someone was plugged into the angelic realm. I mean,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, wow.
Absolutely. I'm going to get a signet ring. I like that idea.
It's good. I mean, you know, rings mean everything. When we got our wedding ring, we chose a sapphire. And the reason why we chose a sapphire, it's the sign of it's the sign of royalty and loyalty.
Oh, that's nice.
So we both are royal to each other, and the fact that we have loyalty that seals our covenant.
You know, I had a couple on my show a few weeks back that Tamu put me in touch with, and they actually call each other king and queen with the same idea.
It's very proper, very proper. We don't look at ourselves as royalty. I mean, we are, but we are. I mean, everyone that's in that chat room, everyone that's going to listen to us even after this is done, I mean, we are royal. And that's what I think the Christ
was of the royal family of this planet, at least.
Yes, of this
planet. We are of the Elohim.
Yes.
We're part of the royal family of this planet. And he that shall not be named is not.
No.
He was, what do they call it when they throw somebody out of the family? He's banished.
He is. He's been excommunicated.
He's been banished.
You know, banished, and I like that. Remember back in the 60s, there was a Western called Branded. Remember that?
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, it was called Branded, and the guy was in the military. The same guy who played in Rifleman.
Chuck Connors.
Yeah, Chuck Connors.
I do remember the Elvis movie Charo where they branded him on the neck.
Yeah,
well, that was a movie.
Well, this one was branded when they branded him out of the army. You know, they took him, and then they did his sword. But the point is, listen, I had this vision today while I was out working that some of us, when we get into that transient spot, once we leave this plane, I was shown that I'm going to have the opportunity, because listen, I get where hell is. It's up here, folks.
Absolutely.
And you don't want to carry it with you. But I was shown, because I said to this, I was saying, who was talking to me.
Chuck Connors was a pro baseball player as well, by the way.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
What was his son's name? Luke. But anyway, the point is that there's going to be some of us that we're going to be able to go out into the cosmos, because
Absolutely.
that's where I want to go. That's what I want to see.
Some people are going to stay here and
they will
take care of this planet.
Yep.
Because the wicked husbandman's being thrown out, and this vineyard is going to be given to other people to man it and control it. And I say, do a great job, guys. I hope you enjoy it, but I'm going somewhere else. I'm going out somewhere else.
I think I've done my time. Now, they may try to recruit us back, but who knows? But I kind of sensed in this one that I think when you get there, now there's going to be lessons. What I was told that, yeah, you're going to be able to go, but guess what? Get yourself prepared, because you're going to have to learn.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
We don't stop learning.
Oh, no. I have a sense that we're going to go, oh, crap.
Yeah, wow. So we're out of kindergarten now.
If I could just get that book again. What was
Can
that?
I just go back to finger painting?
Yeah, please. It's like, no, but I think it's going to be quite the sight to see. I mean, I found that many of the ancient alchemists, they knew about astral projection. They knew about.
Oh, yeah, that's what the Nazca lines are for, Wayne.
The Nazca. Listen, I think the ley lines is what I've been reading. They actually connect into the magnetic grid.
Well, you know what the Nazca lines are, right? That's those. Yeah, they got the big figures on, and people say, "Oh, it's because that was for the aliens to see." So they was talking. No, that was for them to know if you were really mastering your astral projection or not, because you had to get up high enough astrally projected to tell them what the figures were.
Yeah.
That's what the Nazca lines were really for. It has nothing to do with aliens. Sorry to Mr. Sitchin, not Sitchin, von Daniken, but that's what the Nazca lines are for.
It's so often, I think these aliens is that many times are the conjuring of what we have done in bringing forth out of the ether. Listen, if according to the Kabbalah, that the Hebrews could make a golem. Now, it was said that Abram made golems and to serve him because he didn't have servants. So, all right, every legend has a grain of truth in that.
A kernel of truth, absolutely.
Yeah. So, is that to say that you can't create a life force? They had no soul. And apparently they could only extend a certain length of time, and then they would go back and just simply dissolve.
Well, that lady in Tibet created Tulpe.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name. I've interviewed Tulpe on the radio. They're real. You can create them.
Yeah, listen, let me just bring this up to everyone.
And I keep saying we should end this, but it keeps getting more and more. There's more people here than there were when we started. There's more people here than ever. So
children actually do this already.
They do,
folks. We did.
Tulpe is the plural of tulpa.
Okay, so you think about what we were able to do, and some children are much better than others.
Right.
They can literally create. Now you say they're make believe. But I'll guarantee you they're as real as what you and I are.
They're only imaginary to you.
Bingo.
To the kid, they're real.
They are real. I mean, listen, you ask any child who really has that imaginary friend, it has a personality, folks. So we get to a certain age of adulthood and we say, oh, well, that can't happen. But the alchemist says, oh, no. Yes, you can.
Absolutely.
So
you've just forgotten who we are.
And you know what we're doing today? You know how we do this today? We're creating what they call biorobots. I mean,
think of these sex robots they're creating.
Well, and isn't it odd that now you have these brothels that are now you can buy a franchise of which they're all sex robots. And you know what? They're the hottest selling thing out there.
They are. And people think this is weird, but I started drinking distilled water like 3 months ago, and I think it's making a profound change in my life. Just throw that out there.
It's water that's alive.
Yeah, this is distilled water. They say it's dead, but it's working good for me.
So much that what we've been taught We haven't been taught. And
Exactly.
the Eastern, so it gets back to creating again. Listen, I look back on the people like Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins,
Tony's still with us.
is he still with us?
Yes.
Cool. Um,
He's a young guy. He's probably younger than we are, I think.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Earl Nightingale.
Nightingale Conant, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I listened to them in a young man when I was getting into my corporate career. And the reason why I did is
Tony Robbins is 57.
57. Okay. It altered me when I used to be a road warrior and having to cover 5 states.
Wow.
The cassette players were always of the albums. I would get Tony Robbins.
I used to love Tom Hopkins.
Yeah, it's another one. And when you
never ask a say no question, Wayne.
Exactly. Well, I taught actually a course for a couple of years to different companies around the country called responsive selling. And what I told people is that people aren't looking for a reason to be sold. What they're seeking is affirmation as to why they're buying.
Exactly right. I mean, this is when I became a certified master practitioner of NLP, was during my sales area. And I mean, I use my powers only for good now. I mean, it's very strong.
Oh, well, we taught the technique of mirroring, and it's how you close a deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And people don't know that today, but I use it all the time. And
Beltman says Zemu approves. I keep telling these guys it's not XENU, it's XEMU, but nobody believes me.
Yeah, well, go to the Oracle. That's all I got to say. But
that part of it was written out in Hubbard's handwriting, and looks to me like it was an M, not an N. But anyway,
I remember when the EST thing was going on in the
80s.
The
Erhard seminars training.
Yeah, and I was dealing with a lot of attorneys.
Is that where you yelled at the chair?
Yeah, I mean, this thing was crazy, folks. And the thing that really freaked me out,
Sophie.
I found that there were a lot of attorneys, there were a lot of people. We were raising funds. Anyway, I went to one of these meetings, right? And the whole freaking law firm's there. I mean, this was a high prestigious law firm. And it was Ron L. Hubbard's. It's the elite part of this thing. And I got to tell you what, that was creating out of the ether, because that was some scary crap. I mean, that was freaking mind control, folks.
I don't think so, Jim. I'm just answering questions back and forth in the chat room.
Okay. So, but this goes to show you, it's these type of people like Ron Hubbard. They could see something.
Jack Parsons.
Thank you. That
Aleister Crowley.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got a whole list of them. These guys, they figured it out. Now, a lot of them were what I'm learning is called the baselines. What they have done is tarnished the sacred knowledge of alchemy. Yeah. Because they went for the very baseline manipulation.
And have you ever heard of the avatar training?
No. They got an avatar training?
Well, that's kind of pirated Scientology. Some guy took it and
yeah. Well,
it's the bridge to total freedom at half price.
It always amazes me that they got to. It always comes with a price, It always is. And what I am determined to do is that if the people who really want to learn is that we can give them the same information that we're learning and say, here, folks, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
I think it's time that we start. Listen, I never heard of the term alchemist. I was thinking today, when I heard the term alchemy, it was always associated with the weird stuff.
I always think about it lead into gold. That's what I think.
Yeah. Merlin's court, it's
turning the mundane into the remarkable. What the world considers mundane. There's really nothing mundane.
No. I think that this is what's going to lead us to a path where we can get out of this Babylonian system, the monetary system we have today. I think that this begins to change that, because if we can begin to learn Listen, people don't.
You can't be a suppressive if you know you're a suppressive.
That's like the guy who was schizophrenic and wanted to commit suicide. The cop said, "Wait a minute, we got a hostage situation here."
That's a good one. I never thought about that.
Well, it's just the other thing, you know, the true optimist is the guy that was up on the 10-story building and tripped and fell. And so they came later and the cops are getting the reports. And so they talked to the woman on the 7th floor and she said, "Did you hear anything?" She says, "No." They got down to the 5th floor and they said, "Did you hear anything?" And the woman said, "Yeah." They said, "Well, what'd you hear?" Why, she said, as he went by, he said, "So far, so good."
Yeah.
So
not the fall that killed him, it's the sudden stop.
Yeah. So it's learning these new ways of thinking at things.
Yeah.
And you know, we got to watch this because beware of what they call the knowledge of biology of man, because this is where people begin to understand some of this knowledge about how you can control things, and they always seem to go for, you know, the momentary pleasure.
Right.
They do. I mean, you know, it's like how much I can get into my bank account, which is it's a total illusion.
And it's sad. It really is. It's a bastardization of it.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about this as what people sometimes say, well, kind of give me what
I was asked to do this, Wayne, so you'll have to bear it for a minute.
Okay.
Go ahead. Keep talking.
So the best thing that I can always say that how we can create out of the ether, out of the nothing. Remember Star Trek? How they always had the food replicator?
Absolutely.
It's the same principle. Gene saw that, you know, way back when. I still love that.
Gene Roddenberry.
That's a great
talking
picture
about, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So we could just think about it. If they had enough to think about it, if man can think it, he can make it.
Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely.
That is so true. Wow. So, lots and lots of good stuff tonight.
It was good. I enjoyed this. I hope everyone else did. And we're learning, Jeff. We're learning.
Well, yeah, if you're not learning, then, you know, I mean, what are you doing?
Well, I think you're dying.
You are. I mean, you're either living or you're dying. That's one of the two. And if you're living, you're learning.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
and we really are all alchemists, like Anonymous says.
Yeah.
We just don't know it.
High five on that one, buddy. I agree with you on that. Absolutely, that we are. We just don't know it. But it's time for us to start learning. And you know,
Veltman just time out somebody. I've never seen Veltman do anything before as a moderator. Good for him.
It's just saying, by golly, we run a tight ship here.
I run probably a tighter ship than most people. I probably shouldn't, but.
Well, I think it's a fact that, you know, someone wrote something in one of my comments, and he was using some very foul language in all caps. And
of course, like people are gonna notice, and I guess maybe they do.
I wrote him back and I said, your words have such anger. Why are you angry? You know, and I think that that's what's happening to us, that people are now becoming anesthetized to it. This thing I'm going to do a whole thing on why humanity intoxicates itself. And
that's a good one.
It's so what I'm trying to say to everyone out there, folks, listen, we all have intemperance. We just got to learn how to dissipate it. That's all.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Like the Beatles said, all you need is love.
All you need is love, and you can buy it with a little help from your friends, right?
All the time, and then we'll get on the Yellow Submarine.
I don't know the Yellow Submarine song, but I know those other ones.
We all live
in
the Yellow Submarine.
And I just love the song by Lennon. You know, watching the wheels go round and round. He got himself off of the merry-go-round. He's just looking at these people like, what's wrong with you people?
That's where he was at in his life, and that's why I think his life was ended. I think boy, when you said that, I was back. We were playing poker on that Monday night. We was watching Monday Night Football with Howard Cosell.
Dun, 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 dun. Howard Cosell.
And Don Meredith.
Don Meredith.
Yeah. And
turn out the lights. The party's over.
we were listening to Casey, all you folks that live in St. Louis, and they broke in, you know, and said on that about the same time they broke into the radio that we saw it on the television.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, there we go. That's a
And talk about another great talent.
Yeah, a man who finally really figured it out. He finally, I think John was, he really, he was an inward thinker, and that's what I really appreciate about him.
And I think it was a meeting between him and Paul and Elvis that really started him down the path of realizing what was going on. But that's a story for another day.
I'd love to hear it.
Told to me by a person that was there.
Well, you know what? That is one we ought to put up on Sunday's show.
Oh, we could do that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
We might even be able to get Larry to come in and tell it himself.
Love to. That
Larry
would be
Keller,
awesome.
who was Elvis's hairstylist and de facto spiritual guru.
That would be phenomenal.
I'll email Larry and see if he'd be willing to.
That's a great, you know, 2 or 3 coffee type of program.
It is. It definitely is.
All right, I'm on board.
I'll see if I can do it. He's getting. I don't know if he will, but I'll see.
Well, hey, listen. If not, you and I can pilot it. But that's a good story, and he figured it out, folks.
He did. He figured it out. I think all 3 of those guys figured it out, but they were under such heavy oppression and attack that. Whoa, Jen Fisher says she took a lot of acid in the 80s.
Took who? What?
Who knew that Jen Fisher took a lot of acid in the 80s?
I didn't. I took a lot in the 70s. So.
Oh, I never took any of that stuff, man.
Yeah, when I was 16 and 17, I was dropping LSD about every other day.
Wow.
Yep.
That's just beyond my ability to even comprehend.
Went out for a peyote ceremony with the Apache Indians.
Did you chew it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Got strychnine poison on it too.
And you were throwing up all over the place, weren't you?
Yeah, it's hallucinating pretty heavily too. Yeah. But you know what?
Did you get any positive results from it?
Oh yeah, yeah. Listen, I have met the spirit guides out there. I mean, I really took probably the most serious out-of-body experience I've ever had. I had dropped some window pane acid. And
what does that mean, drop? Is that just you put it on your tongue and?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just let it dissolve, and depending on how pure it was, the acid that I typically took was about 500 mics. So,
and this is stuff that had like the pictures on it, right? It's like cartoon characters.
No, there was some of that there. They had some of that was blot acid. The window pane was like it looked like film, and it was a very tiny little piece. But I had gone and seen Creedence Clearwater Revival. And,
oh man, there's a great, another great group.
Yeah, and boy, I was really peaking as I got out. And so anyway, I had learned meditation. And we got back to the house, and there was a full moon, and I just started meditating. And the next thing I know, I was out of my body. I was literally floating over it. I could see my body. And then there was this compelling force that was pulling me. And I turned around, and where the moon had been, it was now a shaft of clouds that had surrounded it. And as I got carried up there, the next thing I knew, it was weird. I was standing and I could see stars everywhere. It was just everywhere. And then I met the beings, and the
little trolls or elves or whatever they're called.
They weren't little.
They weren't little.
No, these I met them several times. And
are they real, or is it just imaginations?
I think they're the Centurions. I think they're the Guardians. I think they guard that portal. I can tell you.
People keep telling me that I need to do some mushrooms, some DMT, stuff like that, and I've just never gone there. Did you ever have a bad trip, Wayne? Someone's asking.
No. I helped a lot of people that did. And listen, the reason why they had bad trips, because it was up here.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
That's why I never did it, because I used to make a joke when I was an evangelist. I said, the devil kept me off of drugs because I was so afraid of the devil. And I knew that if I I had this girlfriend who used to always want me to take acid with her, and I knew if I did that I was going to be chased around by the devil, so I knew enough to never do it.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'll say about hallucinogenics is that it will expose the inner core of who you are.
Yeah.
Now, it was really interesting because I can remember a couple of the episodes that I took some orange sunshine once and ended up preaching.
Orange sunshine?
Yeah, that's what it was called.
That?
It's just another form of acid, LSD. Okay. And I got into a hothouse and I ended up preaching the gospel to all these plants.
Beltman says no, maybe a little shrooms, but no LSD for you, Jeff. Do you concur?
I would probably say, yeah. LSD is pretty intense.
So you were doing your purple sunshine or yellow sunshine. You're in a hothouse preaching the gospel to whom?
Plants.
Plants.
They actually have auroras, believe it or not. You can actually.
Oh, I've seen it. Yeah, I've read their auras.
They actually have a life force to them. And when you're out there, this is what happens. You can actually get freedom. Now, am I a proponent and tell people, no, listen, you have to be mature enough about and honest enough with yourself.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to create a hell for you. And that's what a lot of people do. They do.
I'll give you a funny story about preaching to the plants. I was, when I was in Bible college, I worked as a security guard at night. And I would go out and I would walk this fence, and it was nighttime, right? Pitch black. And I was preaching all my sermons, preach. And one day I worked day shift. I walked out there, and about 10 feet from where I was doing all my preaching was a trailer that some old lady lived in. And she walked out and she said, I just want you to know I've really been enjoying your sermon. And I thought I was preaching to nothing.
I love it. You see, it was that natural calling that we have. It's the spiritual. And that's where it began for me with LSD, is that I was part of a control group, and we were taught transcendental meditation. We were also taught techniques of concentration, giving math problems. They would put us in these deprivation tanks. And as I told you before, and it's really...
Does that make it better or worse to go in the deprivation tank?
It's death. That's what it felt like. Because it gives you that sense. And then when you get over that fear, and it's palatable, it really is. But then for myself, all of a sudden, everything just burst open. I mean, light coming from places I had no idea. And it's quite fascinating.
What is DMT like when you do DMT?
I never took any of it, so I've heard that it really...
What's DMT like? LSD is probably too much, huh? You're saying it's pretty intense.
It can, it lasts long, and it can really, once you get up there and you start peaking, it can last for a couple of hours. Where DMT, it's going to take... Altered
States was a weird movie.
It was, and that actually was a really good movie about really getting inside the human consciousness. But
and what is shrooms like when people do mushrooms?
Mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms. We used to go down and pick them when I lived in Texas.
When you guys do cow tipping, you'd pick some mushrooms too?
Oh, let me tell you what. We were eating mushrooms out there one time, and you try to get out there in the early morning.
Oh, I thought you make a tea out of them.
We would just simply make it with orange juice.
Okay, so
you blend them.
So I see you drinking orange juice, Wayne. Is there anything that you want to tell us?
No, because I don't like mushrooms. I got sick on one. And
I gotcha.
That was a bad trip. I mean, it was like, it wasn't bad in my head. I was just bad physically. I was like, okay.
Gotcha. You got sick?
Yeah, I did. But the best time we ever had, we were eating the mushrooms raw. You get out there, like I said, about right when the sun's coming up. And these cows got around us.
That's a Bill Hicks story.
Yeah, it was like these cows were all around us. And I swear they knew that we were getting high off the crap that they had just put out there. I mean, and yeah, so, but.
And what about ayahuasca? Have you done that?
No, I have not.
That also makes you sick, I believe.
Yeah. I'm at that point in my life now where I don't like the idea of being physically sick. It sucks.
Yeah, but isn't there stuff you can do that doesn't have the requisite sickness? I don't think the DMT makes you sick.
I don't, I haven't looked into
somebody chime in the chat room.
I mean, back when I was like mescaline, you could buy mescaline. You know, it was very much pure cut and pretty good stuff. So
Did the LSD make you sick?
no, no, never did. Never had a bad trip on that because I learned very early that how you have to handle LSD is that when you start feeling the effects, it's like you have to program your brain into what I always called was a safe zone.
So it's
And
kind of
that
like navigating the afterlife labyrinth.
it is. That's a very good,
So it's
accurate
almost
description.
practice.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, my wheels are turning, Wayne.
Yeah, yeah, it's very and
Colorado retreats for practicing after the afterlife.
well, I tell you what I think for myself, because I did that LSD at an early age in my life, it has stayed with me all my life and allowed me to see things in a different perspective.
Do you have flashbacks?
No, never have. Nope. Mm-mm.
Good.
Never had any ill effects at all. And I know why the CIA invented the drug. It's powerful. It really
Yeah.
is. It really does. And if you're
Let you tell all
trained,
your secrets.
you know, I think that if you can get into conversations with people that, I'll tell you a story offline that really showed me how that can happen.
I can
And
imagine.
yeah, so yeah, when you interact with other people, particularly if they're not in the same place you are,
Mhm. Would you
boy,
do a past life regression when you were on any of that stuff?
you know, we were when in the
Wayne's in
clinic,
Colorado. That's why I made that
yeah,
statement.
in the clinic, we would when they would give us the dosage, and it was in little like medicine cups, and it was this clear liquid. They would teach us that you have to stay focused in, for instance, if you have a fear of heights,
Right.
well, the last thing you're going to want to think about is that fear. It's not the height, it's the
Right.
fear. And once that door opens, you know, the demons come a running.
Yep. That's why you got to control it.
Yeah, you really
Gotcha.
do.
Gotcha.
Now I
Interesting,
challenge them.
interesting stuff.
Yeah, I mean, kind of gone a little bit long, but it's the life experiences. And when I see the deities and they're around, I used to be afraid of them. You know, they used to have dominion over a lot of my thoughts. You know, but now when you start seeing that oppression, you just speak to it.
Yep. People say DMT lasts 15 minutes and you don't get sick.
Yeah, that's what I'd heard. It's a very quick, and again, that really gets into that conversation about what is time.
Yeah. So that's, yeah, but I bet it doesn't seem like 15 minutes when you're
Yeah,
there.
I've read people who've said that it seemed like a long time, and
I
well,
bet. I
it
bet.
would be interesting. But you know, I think that maybe that's why the ancients, you know, when we did the peyote and the sweat lodge, um, what what the elders taught of us boys, and we were boys. Today, boys don't have the rite of passage. And it has so affected our society and our culture. We don't know what the rite of passage is. And it used to be one for girls too. But when we went into the sweat lodge, it was the rite of passage from boyhood into manhood.
Yeah.
And that's what the shaman taught us, was that you have to face those demons of your childhood and let them go.
And you don't want to do any of this by yourself, right?
I wouldn't
Yeah.
recommend it for people, because you listen, if people have a hard time being alone just without anything on,
And we are not advocating the
no,
use of any
no,
substances,
nope,
legal or illegal. And
nope.
I'll be honest with you, I've always thought they were shortcuts. I thought you could do the same thing
You can.
with your own, on your own without the medicine.
They used to teach a form of breathing. You know, you do rapid breathing and then you
Yeah.
deep inhale and stop, and then you rapid breathing and then you do that.
Chef,
And
me too, somebody says.
that one there is the chemical. Basically, what you're doing is that you're oxygizing your body
Right.
to a point that then basically rushes to the brain, that gives you that endorphin effect that, you know, opens up those channels.
Sounds like it's safer to do DMT.
Yeah. Listen,
But anyway,
I put it like this. Why do you think all the rituals of the past, they always gave something to drink, whether it was wine, whether it was, something else?
Yeah.
It's always been a part of the religious rituals that we've invoked. Why? Because
Yeah.
it puts you in touch. Listen, when I was, practicing Christianity, I used to tell people all the time, well, it's a good reason, that why they call it spirits, don't you? Because that's what bars were. They were gathering places of spirits.
Yeah.
Listen, the alchemists knew when they made alcohol what that purpose was for.
Absolutely.
It's invoking the spirits. People say you lose your inhibitions. Damn right you lose your inhibitions. There's a reason for it.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. So good discussion. Good discussion from Jeff.
It was a great discussion. It really was.
Hope everyone enjoyed it. And I know it's a little late on your end, but yeah.
Oh, that's okay. I'll be up until 3:30, so I got half my day left. And as Doc Holliday said, in vino veritas.
Yes, he did, didn't he? One of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
Your Huckleberry.
I'm in my prime.
Yeah, their Holiday.
Love it.
Great movie. I mean,
it's probably I only own 2 movies, and that's one of them.
Yeah, that's definitely good. Men were men. What can I say? By the way, Doc Holliday's grave is just right up the road from me.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, he's buried in Colorado. That's not where he's from, though.
No, he died.
Because he died at that sanitarium up there.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm gonna have to come there and see Doc Holliday's grave.
It's just right up the road, right off
Absolutely.
I-70.
Is it like a big thing, or is it just like a little grave?
It's they sell the trinkets, but yeah, that's where the man's buried.
So you actually can see. You actually see his grave.
Well, I haven't. They say.
Oh, you never been up to it?
No, I haven't. No, I've driven to every time I've gone on Interstate 70. You can see it right here.
How far away is it?
For me, about 25-minute drive.
Wayne, I'm disappointed with you that you've never been to Doc Holliday's grave and it's 25 minutes away.
All right, I'll go up there and I'll take some pictures and send it to you.
I'm going to go. I'm definitely going to go.
Right. Well, good. Come by and stop here. We'll do a live show from here.
I love Doc Holliday. I don't know why.
Well, I'll say something about
and he was a dentist.
Yeah, he was. That's why I think he became a gambler. It was probably less life-threatening because I think dentists back in those days had a very short career.
Oh, I'm sure they did. Yeah.
Hate them then. But yeah, I think that, it's something that we give in trading our souls. Today we have technology and it rules us. But back then, men lived off the land. They lived by a set of a code, and not saying that they were perfect, but kind of a different time, wasn't it?
Yep, it absolutely was. Back when, like you said, men were men.
They were, yeah.
And
listen,
sheep shivered in fear, but men were men.
And again, it was that rite of passage. We've lost that, and it has been, I think, one of the greatest detriments to our society.
Oh, absolutely.
Men don't know how to be men today, and boys certainly don't know how to become men.
Well, it's because we're all, first it was, just the TV and, then now it's these stupid handheld devices.
And the video games.
And the video games. Oh, the video games are the worst. I just haven't played video games. I never got into any of that stuff.
I liked Pac-Man, back in the day. Yeah. But, and then the virtual reality now. I think this is going to I think what we're going to see is aneurysms with people that really get into this VR.
William Shatner wrote a series of, I think it was 3 novels and it was about Tech World, TEK, and it was this things that people put on that was virtual reality, and exactly what you're saying. People would keep doing it until they blew their brains out.
Yeah. And we know already.
Happen, Wayne. There's no doubt about it.
I have no doubt about it. Listen, we're getting reports of gamers in their mid-20s dying of heart attacks.
Yep.
I mean, come on, folks. Do you know what it takes for a 20-year-old to have a cardiac arrest issue?
It's
And it's
gotta be
just not
rough.
one. Oh, it's just not one. It's happening more and more. They're falling over dead in these things that they don't move for 2 or 3 days. I mean, come on. That's
Well, they got
crazy.
those chairs now that rock and stuff, so they couldn't even fall out of them. They're just
Yeah, it's like, all right,
they're
you
just
know.
dead in the chair.
Well, that's when they're playing Weekend at Bernie's, you know. It's like
That's so sad. That really is.
it's very sad. We make light of it, but this is what's happening to us, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't
And yet
know.
here I am. I make 5, 6 videos a day sitting in front of this computer screen. So
Yeah, but listen, there's a difference here. When I look at it, is you see, I think that there is the same connection of the video games, the virtual reality, is that they're actually plugging into the ethereal. They're actually
yep.
plugging into the soul realm. And what happens is that because they're not initiates, they're uninitiated, they don't have an understanding what's happening, is that they're weak.
Yeah.
And where, nature abhors a vacuum. So where you make an image of an idol or a figure,
Yeah. Wayne, don't ever say I don't listen to you.
Look at you. All right, brother.
I just gotta get it fixed up and hooked up.
All right. Way to go.
So don't say I don't listen to you.
He's my man.
You think that's a good about a good place to set it? Is that a good spot?
Yeah. Absolutely. It absolutely is.
I won't have to scream at this thing.
No. Once, and keep it on. Don't let it do the automatic. You do it just the manual, and you'll never have that. Because I remember I had the fluctuation of going in.
Yep. And thanks so much for those of you that sent me some support. That's what I did. Got this.
Way to go.
Boom. And this is a nice little microphone here. So I appreciate it very much. And hopefully by tomorrow, I'll have this thing hooked up and we'll get better sound quality for you and not as much voice hassle for me. Now you wear the headphones to listen to yourself?
Yeah, I do. I have a set of external speakers, but what I found was that sometimes, like when we have 2 or 3 guests or we're playing video, I can get the feedback. And so now that's eliminated. I just listen to it,
Because I have headphones. I could plug those in and wear the headphones too.
It helps, and plus, no one can.
Oh, dude, mom's Elvis scarf. I would fight your mom for that Elvis scarf.
Oh, wow. Wow. Now that's a keepsake.
I would fight your mom for that Elvis scarf. Somebody sent me. Let me show you one thing before we leave.
Sure. So I'll keep talking. Actually, I got to see Elvis in the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo in 1968. Could you imagine that?
Oh, that was back when he was at his best.
Yeah, it was really quite something to see him. Saw him in the Houston Astrodome.
That was Elvis at his prime, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Somebody sent me this. It's by a famous local artist in South Carolina or something. And I've got to mount it yet, but they sent this to me, and it's like a line drawing of Elvis.
TCB, baby.
Pretty cool.
Yes, that is. Way to go.
I'm looking forward to putting that up.
Yeah, brother.
Looking forward to putting that up.
That is cool.
Yeah, I like it. Skip Shelton.
I think that's very cool. Way to go.
He's a famous artist there in the Carolinas, at least. So,
well, he's talented.
Famous for his Elvis stuff.
Well.
So anyway, I guess we're going to have to end this.
All right. Been fun, everybody. Been fun, Jeff. I enjoyed it. Hope we kept
It's really been fun. I mean, and it's still going strong. I mean, we could probably do this all night.
Yeah, well.
But we're not going to.
I enjoy it. And, as winter comes in, these will have the opportunity where we can, because I got a sense that we're really going to get spanked this winter.
Oh, you think there's going to be a lot of snow?
Well, we're expecting our first snowfall next Monday.
Oh, wow.
So, all the trees here have turned. I was out today trimming branches because how you just get that feeling, you heard someone keep telling you, like, you really need to cut those branches, otherwise they're going to come down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what, folks? Listen to those voices, because they knew what the hell they were talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as it turned out, we were cutting them down, and sure enough, I'll guarantee if it had been a heavy, wet snow. So anyway, that was my day.
Well, we really do have to end it because I really have to go to the bathroom bad.
All right, then. All right, everyone. Have a great evening. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, for R. Wayne Steiger, I am Jeffrey Daugherty, your friendly neighborhood Christian whistleblower. I'm definitely going to go out to Doc Holliday's grave. That'll be super awesome. I salute all of you who are here watching. Check out the R. Wayne Steiger YouTube channel, and we'll see you again very, very soon. And Wayne, I love doing this with you. And, you know, as Doc Holliday said, it's just my game.
I love it. All right, Uncle Barrick. I enjoyed it.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.